Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Dr. Jeremy Kohamban here with me today. How you doing, Dr. Jeremy?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. How are you feeling today?
Quite good, thank you. And you?
I'm doing pretty good. I see you have a Children's Village banner behind you. What is the Children's Village?
We are a historical charity that works with children in immigration, foster care, and juvenile justice.
Wow, that sounds like a major undertaking. And we are in a climate where everybody has something to say about youth and care. But we don't often hear about the people who are leaders in the arena of children and care. So I'm very happy to have you on our show today.
It's good to be here.
For sure. Now, where are you from, Jeremy?
Originally?
Yeah.
I was born in Sri Lanka and came of age in Kansas and moved to New York.
Okay. Let's unpack this. I've never been to Sri Lanka, and in my online encyclopedia days, I don't even recall looking up Sri Lanka to see the sights. So can you talk to me a little bit about the culture, the look, the feel, smell, and taste of Sri Lanka?
It's a tiny island south of India, just off the equator. It's pretty multiracial, at least it used to be when I was born there. People of all backgrounds have come to live there, but it's predominantly Buddhist. It's a Buddhist country. With some Hindus and actually a large Hindu and Muslim community and a small Christian community.
Okay.
Great food, great culture, culture that goes 2,000 years prior to the birth of Christ. So a lot going on there in a small place.
Wow. Did you learn any lessons there before you left? Were there any cultural epithets, lessons, traditions that were passed on to you before you came to America?
Well, I had parents that did a lot of good work. I really was there when the war started. There was a brutal war, so I learned a lot about how much people suffer and what war can do to families and to people and to neighborhoods. Those are lessons that I probably will never forget.
Wow. Can you talk about what the war was about and how it impacted your family?
It was a ethnic war between two communities, but it started as a small regional battle that very quickly engulfed the country for 25 plus years. It was a war that separated people needlessly, as often war does.
Absolutely. I don't think war is the answer in any perspective. And I also want to know this. Were there men who would otherwise have been a farmer who, because of this conflict, they became a soldier in this war?
Many.
Wow.
And many gave their lives.
Wow. Did that at all enhance your perspective of what it means to be a man as an adult?
I don't know if it did, but it certainly got me wanting to be in the military because I thought of the military as a solution, and spent much of my late teen years and early 20s preparing for a career in the Army, and then made a big change.
Absolutely. All right. So now, how old were you when you came to the United States with this multicultural and diverse perspective? How old were you?
I was in my late teens,
How old?
19.
You came here at 19 years old?
I did.
What was the language barrier like for you?
None. I grew up speaking English, so there was no issue there.
Okay. Y'all were in Sri Lanka speaking English as well.
Sri Lanka was a Portuguese, Dutch, and finally a British colony. So I grew up in a multiracial family that spoke a lot of languages and grew up speaking English.
Hmm. Do you feel that being multilingual makes you more able to understand people and achieve a higher level of cultural competence?
I don't know. I think it helps. I think being around people, you don't need to speak their language. Simply being around people, eating food with people
Yep.
helps me understand people. I don't always feel that I need to know the language to begin to build a bond.
Yeah, yeah. I always find it unique when somebody can speak more than one language. And that's why I asked that, because you came here multilingual. I'm just fascinated at that. I took Spanish for a few years, but I never became fluent in it. And so when I get to talk to people who are multilingual, I like to know how it influenced their perspective.
It
Now,
does have an influence, that's for sure. I think it gives you an appreciation for other people, period. And people, when they know you speak a language that is important to them, it also gives them a sense that you're trying, right? You're connecting.
mhm. Who came here with you?
I came here alone,
Okay, you were a soldier in a sense.
in a sense, yes.
Yeah. What made you want to come to America?
This is a great country, a great opportunity. I always wanted to be here, and I came.
Wow. Now, did you learn about America through television, advertisements, word of mouth? How did you realize that you wanted to come to America?
I think all of that. We had a lot of friends in the United States. My parents traveled a lot, so it was a. There were a couple countries on my short list that I would want to visit, and I thought, you know, America was the right place at the right time, and I wasn't wrong.
Oh no, you were not wrong. As evidenced by the work that you do today and the influence that you have on the community at large. And so that's why we exploring, who you were at this time. You came here with a compassionate heart. And I want to know, as a 19-year-old, what did you do first? How did you figure out how to survive here in America?
Um, I I don't know if I would call it survival. I think I made good friends. I came from a family that taught me that people matter,
Mhm.
that relationships matter, and I put those lessons to work very quickly.
Sure. So what did you do first?
I went to college. I worked. I did every kind of job I could find to make sure that I was staying involved and had some money,
Mhm.
and and just kept doing it every day.
Every day. And what was your major there?
I studied psychology when I was in Kansas.
Okay. Oh, so you came here and you went to Kansas, right?
Right?
So you're in Kansas. You're in school. Are you a sports fan? What was your
No,
what
I was a real nerd.
you said you're a real nerd?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, let's go that
well,
route.
not that much talent with sports.
Yeah.
My brother is the one with sports talent, not me.
Okay. And so what were you reading? Who were you listening to?
I was really buried in my books.
Mhm.
I read a lot of I'm a news junkie, so I followed the news. I wanted to do well in school. I was pretty sure I needed to do well in school. I had I couldn't read till I was about 17. I have dyslexia. Um, I'm profoundly dyslexic, and I didn't know it, and nobody actually knew it. But when I went to college, they identified the problem. And suddenly, I knew if I could learn to focus, I could learn to read and read better. I had begun to read, but I wasn't reading fast enough. And I couldn't pronounce words because I hadn't learned to read phonetically.
Right.
And that, kept me going because I wanted to do more because I knew I could do it.
Absolutely. There's thousands of young people in the world right now who are living with dyslexia. All of them don't know that they have dyslexia, but those that do are going to have challenges when it comes to reading, math, and overall responses to inquiries. How did you manage dyslexia?
Um, I don't know exactly how I managed it. I learned to read it because I picked up a book that my sister had been reading. I remember I was 17 years old, and I suddenly realized that I could begin to read. And I made it a commitment to try to stay focused. I think what I did most was stay focused. But in my first year of college, I was fortunate. There was a teacher that realized that maybe I could that I needed some help, and she referred me to a reading lab where they tested me and said, "Oh well, you've got dyslexia, but it looks like you're learning to manage it." And I just kept doing what I had been doing, which was to really just spend time learning to do it better every day. So every page I read, I wanted to do the next one better than the last one.
So you looked at reading as a challenge.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
challenge.
right. Yeah, it was a challenge, huh?
But I was
Oh,
also not shy. I think my mom taught me not to be shy. So I did ask for help, and a lot of people helped me, which is great.
I'm surprised that you went all the way through college age without ever discovering that you had dyslexia.
Well, I knew it. I went through high school without knowing it, but by the time I got to college, that first year of college, I knew what I had.
Hmm. So I mean, were you weren't doing things backwards and saying things backwards, and somebody says, go right, and you going left thinking you're right?
I still do that.
Yeah.
My family would attest to that. It's yeah. If I don't write it down and triple check it and make a list and you know
Right.
check it
Yeah.
off, I'm constantly making lists and checking it off.
Mhm.
If I don't do that, I'm kind of lost.
Yeah. I asked you, what were you reading and how much do you read? I should have been asking you, how much do you write?
I write a lot.
Hmm. Do you write more than you read?
Um, these days, no, I think it's about 50-50. I try to read as much as I can, and then I write as often as I can.
Right. Can you talk to me about the value of writing? We live in a system where a lot of young people, they don't even write cursive anymore. Do you think that writing is becoming a lost art, a lost form of expression?
I don't think so. I think young people are learning to communicate in other ways, right? So they're not doing the writing that I'm accustomed to doing, but they young people communicate quite well. They probably communicate better than I do. I think it's changing. It's There is no danger here that we won't stop communicating. I think the danger is probably that we have so much information that it's sometimes hard to discern which is true or better than the other.
Mhm.
But I think young people are doing a pretty good job of communicating. Uh,
Mhm.
Many of them, though, need to learn the principles of writing because at the end of the day, they'll be judged by what they write. And
Absolutely.
so we need to help them balance it out and understand that they can write in any way they want to, but they need to know the basics.
Right. As young people transform into a different type a different type of person based on our environment. Everybody's changing. So, like you said, we're in a day and age where, you might not write cursive, and that's okay.
Okay.
You might not spend time handwriting, and that's okay. But that energy and space is being turned into something different that you do to communicate. Do you think that that the world is able to keep up with young people in the way that they're changing these days?
Absolutely. They kept up with us when we were growing up.
Okay, that's a pretty good answer. Do you think that we need to be doing more to get through to young people, to communicate to them in a way that they can understand?
I think every generation needs mentors, right? You and I certainly, um, I benefited from having people in my life, people that guided me, people that helped me think through right from wrong, people that had my back even when I was wrong. Um, all our young people need that. They deserve that. And I worry that we have some young people that don't get enough of that, and some that don't have any. So we have work to do to make sure that we don't leave our young people behind. But they're amazing people. I'm around a lot of them, and I am just so fascinated with the world that they will create. I think they're going to do a pretty good job, this generation that I work with.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. When you were in your 20s, did you realize the disparity? That there were millions of young people who needed mentorship, who needed guidance and unconditional relationships. Did you realize that in your 20s, or what was it that clued you in on that?
Actually, I volunteered, and I later had a job in a group home when I was in college. And that was the first time that I realized that here in the United States, in a country that of great wealth and great renown, and a place where I love to be, to me, being an American is a very serious part of my identity. I take it very seriously. That here in this country, in that group home, there were 14 kids, half of whom could not tell me what their future could look like. And that's what clued me in to this piece of work and got me interested in knowing more.
Absolutely. How long did you work in a group home before you transitioned into leadership positions?
I didn't transition into a leadership position there. I worked the night shift, the day shift. I was just, I think I was there for about 2 years. And then when I came to New York to study for a PhD, I kind of kept my foot in the work, and that helped me learn more.
And when you discovered that there were hundreds of thousands of young people in the system who hadn't had the basic necessities of human interaction, how did that make you feel?
I felt that we had missed an opportunity to do something different. I want to be honest. I didn't fully understand the impact of race and poverty then, as I do now. But it was very clear to me that the kind of love that I had growing up, the people that I had in my life that loved me unconditionally, made me who I was, and that every young person deserved to have that unconditional love and that unconditional belonging. And that our systems were not designed to do that.
Wow, that's a really big statement. When you say that our systems weren't designed to do that, what do you mean?
Well, when I came into this system in the early 1990s, we had 500,000 children in foster care.
Wow.
There was a crack epidemic in New York. We had kids aging out. About 20% of the young people, according to research at that time, within 2 years of leaving the system, were in the homeless system. There were another 14% in jail. A system where kids were graduating from one to the next system, which was another place of dependence, another place of rules and regulations without love, could not be called a success, no matter how hard we worked at it. And that's a system that needs a lot more attention and a lot more thinking about what can we do to improve it.
Do you think that the doors are closed when it comes to bright ideas about how the foster care system can change?
Not at all. I think a lot more people, maybe my eyes are more open now, but I see a lot more people struggling with that and refusing to accept that kids should simply be in systems. And I think the next evolution of this is as we begin to question how we spend our money, not just what happens in the system, but where do we spend our money and how do we spend our money?
Do you think that we need to be spending more money to support youth who are in the system?
Yes, but that's not the most complete answer. The most complete answer is that we need to spend money on things that are permanent for our young people. And in my life and in my work, I've only seen three things that are permanent. One is people that love you. People that love you unconditionally, regardless of your race, your color, your faith, your big eyes, your big nose, your accent like mine. People that love you unconditionally. And I have a long list of people that love me unconditionally. And I'm sure you do too. The second is, in the United States and in much of the world, education is a permanent gift. When you're educated, period. Now, you can be educated and choose to behave like an idiot. But, when you're educated. And when you're not educated, you're uneducated. I mean, that sounds so simplistic to repeat that. But if you don't have the opportunity to get a good education, you are already a second-class citizen by at that very moment that you fail to get that opportunity. So education is a permanent gift, and it has long-lasting, lifelong implications that are extremely positive. And then the final is the opportunity to be part of something bigger than yourself, right? A career, something that you can aspire to. That's permanent, because the day I chose to do this work and I loved it, I found a career, something that is bigger than me, that gives me great joy. Everyone deserves to find what they love. And once they do, that's permanent.
Absolutely. Now, when we look at the system, I know people, we use this word, the system, we don't always know what it means. So when I say the system, I'm talking about foster care, group homes, residential treatment centers. It seems like it's been run the same way for the past 20, if not 25 years. I talk to people about their experience in the system, and so many of these people's stories are the same, that they met some good people along the way, but there were also many shortcomings in their journey. So when I talk about, are the doors closed for us to create change in the system, I want to know from you, how do we create change in the system for young people who may or may not go to college?
Well, college doesn't need to be the defining moment, right? You can be a lot without college, but you need something. I think there are steps that we need to take. The first is anyone that comes into this system and does not have a family and does not have people that they can return to represents a failure on our part. If children come to Children's Village, go ahead.
When they come to us without a family, they represent a failure on the part of humanity.
No. If they come into the system and they leave us without a family,
Okay.
we failed.
Right.
We
Okay.
failed, right? Because family is something we all talk about a lot, is so crucial to being connected. Now, family could be one person, but you got to have someone that is committed to you and to your well-being.
Absolutely.
That is something that we need to do more of. We haven't done enough. And when you factor race and segregation, the intentional segregation in the United States, I think we have a lot of work to do. Because even when we send kids back, if children are returning home to family that loves them, but these young people have to go to failing schools that will fail them, we have failed them as a society. That's not just the school failing them. We have failed them as a society. And that's our history that we need to change.
Absolutely. When I say absolutely, and I understand I'm being short because what you're saying makes so much sense that I could just move on to the next thing. And we're moving fast. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being a part of this broadcast. We're dealing with Dr. Jeremy Kohamban. He's a very intelligent man, and he has several decades of experience when it comes to human service. That's why we're able to move at this pace. And I would like for you to let somebody know that we're having this conversation so that after our break, we have even more viewers. My last question before the break, Dr. Kohamban, do you think that we need a handbook on how to deal with young Black Americans in the foster care system?
I think we need a handbook to work with kids, and I think that handbook is available. Many people are doing it well. As an African American, you as an African American probably could answer that question better than I could, as to what young African American children truly need. When it comes to that part of the question, I am still a student. I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to learn as quickly as I can.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jeremy Kohamban is here with us today, and we'll be right back after a brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. All right, Dr. Jeremy, how you feeling
Quite
out
well,
there?
thank you.
Quite well. Okay. Um, for those of you who might know or might not know, I spent years of my life in the foster care system. I went into foster care when I was 7.5 years old, and after several placements, I was adopted at the age of 15. Over the course of that experience, I can say that I also wanted messages from my biological family. Do you see that youth in the foster care system today? They still want some sort of a connection to their biological families. And how can we deal with that?
We just deal with it. I mean, family is important. Yeah, it's just crazy to assume that simply because children are in a system that they should forget about their family. The bottom line is you love your parents even when things are dark, right?
Absolutely.
When there are problems, even when things go wrong in a family, the love for parents usually outlast all the problems. It doesn't make the problems go away. It doesn't make wrong right. It simply means you love. Period.
Right. Do we need to do more teaching people what love is and how to achieve it and keep it circulating among people?
Yeah, I'm surprised how often we have to remind people that our kids want to love and that they are loved. Even the ones that don't know where their families are anymore, someone out there loves them, right?
Yeah.
They have a family that loves them, and that needs to be understood. And it's not always understood. And I think that's part of the system problem. And when it comes to African American families, there is this pervasive feeling that African American families are always dangerous to their own children.
Wow.
That deep rooted history going back probably 400 years at this
Mhm.
point. That's how we felt this sense that, these families are dangerous to their own children.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that people looked at it that way. You know, and when we talk about foster care, we always are inclusive of everybody. But what I hear you saying is that in addition to us being inclusive to everybody, don't forget that people look at black families a little bit differently.
Well, the world has looked at black families differently, right? So why would the system not? I mean, that's the awakening we are trying to go through as a nation, is that for too long we have assumed that everyone is colorblind. And let's face it, um, no one should assume that anymore.
Right. Yeah. We gotta stop having a pre-created narrative of black families, just like we don't have pre-created narrative of other families. We shouldn't have narratives already created of black families either.
Well, implicit bias tells us that those narratives are embedded in our psyche. It's deeply rooted, and we, all of us, have to work hard to get rid of those families, those narratives. And our system is, I think, working on that problem, but we have work to do.
What would be some of the advancements that you've seen in the system when it comes to how we deal with young people in general?
I think the biggest advancement is the recognition that kids do not need to grow up in the system. When I came into this work, children would live in residential care for most of their life. That does not need to happen. That children deserve a family no matter what age, that they don't need to be adopted at 1 and 2. They can be adopted at 21, 22, and 23. They deserve that love. And I think we are also beginning to realize the powerful role that foster parents can play.
Mhm.
While none of our system components are perfect, residential isn't perfect, family foster care isn't perfect. Family foster care gives children the opportunity to actually experience a family. And that is something we should celebrate. It's not something that was always around. It is more accepted today than it ever was before.
Do you see an increase in services being made available to biological families?
I think we have different services being made available to families. Um, you can call it an increase. I don't think it is, but I think it's we have better services that target the problem than we've ever had before. But what families truly need, right? If you're in a rural community and you're poor and you're socially isolated, you need connections. You need a good opportunity for your children and a way for you to improve your life. In the cities that are deeply segregated, deeply and intentionally segregated, we need a renewed commitment to desegregate our cities so that people can go to have the kind of life they deserve than the life we force them to live.
That was a very powerful comment. You believe that we should do some desegregation around here, huh?
The problem with segregation is that when you look at segregated neighborhoods, you see amazing people striving and working really hard to do the things they need to do for themselves and their families, right? But most segregated neighborhoods have poor and failing schools. They don't have safe spaces. They have high levels of police surveillance. Those are not typical components to broader, generalized, integrated communities. Most integrated communities have good, at least passing schools.
Mhm.
They have safe parks, safe spaces. They have good transportation. They have things that we should be able to take for granted that a lot of our people in deeply segregated neighborhoods don't get.
Right. You have a very unique understanding of what's actually going on here in America, and I just want to compliment that. Now, at the same time that people are trying to figure out what's going on and how to do it better, 440,000 youth are in the foster care system, and they're growing older each and every day. What are we doing to teach young men to become adult men and young women to become adult women?
Foster care can't create adulthood. It's a system that is risk averse, that's trying to do its best, but can never replace the love and the guidance of family. So if we continue to expect foster care to create adults, we'll be making a big mistake. That's a theory that has been around for about 200 years that we need to throw.
So now that you've established, and I agree with you 100%, that foster care is not producing effective men and women. Um, Gosh, I guess we need to look for people who've been in foster care and see if they still need more services.
Um, I don't know about services. I don't know whether services is what our young people need. Okay, so there are some young people that will need good health care, good mental health care. Maybe they need an affordable apartment. But I don't think our young people want to live the rest of their lives surrounded by services. That's not how we want to live our lives. We want to live our lives with independence. We want to live our lives in ways that we can give our children a better life than the one we had. We want to live our lives in ways where we can go places, do things, aspire. That's what our young people need. I don't want them surrounded by more government or charitable services.
Right.
Who amongst us wants more government or more charity in our lives? I don't.
That's
I
right.
don't.
Mhm. So what can we do while young people are in the system to teach them how to be effective adults? And like you said, it doesn't always look like a service. Guess what? I don't want to sit in another computer class or an independent living class, sewing class. not even accounting class, with all due respect. But I might want to sit in a manhood class, how to become a man, or a womanhood class, how to become a woman. Do you see that as well?
I do. I think we need to surround we need to look at the time that children spend in the system as very important time, meaning that every minute that they spend with us, we need to make sure that that time is useful and well spent. So there are two things that we can do in addition to the basic education, basic healthcare that our kids deserve and they need it. The two things that we can do is, one is expose them to beauty and to ideas and to culture, because the more exposed we are, the more we learn things about ourselves and what gets us excited. So one is exposure to things, to beauty, to ideas, to culture, to food, right? To the things that typically may not happen in a young person's life because of where they came from. The second is expose them to people that care deeply about them, people that don't want to take advantage of them, but simply love them for who they are. Now, we call this intrinsic belonging, to be loved for who you are. I love you for who you are, not for who you will become, but for who you are right now. We need to surround our young people and expose them to people that see their value for who they are right now.
I think that's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, are we able, and now I'm being a little bit facetious, but are we able to take young people who are in foster care, who are in the system, on a world tour, so to speak? Can we do that?
Why not? We should.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple young people that have traveled on their own. One just got back, well, he's a young adult, just got back from India. The other one, spent a semester in China. And each one of them talks about the transformation that kind of travel brought to their lives, right? It exposed them, it broadened their thinking. Why not?
Absolutely. When you say what you just said, I'm thinking you go into foster care and there is a soft itinerary made for your time in foster care where you're going to go different places. It could start right here in America, but you're going to go different places in the country and you're going to learn new things. You're going to be exposed to new foods, beauty, culture, and people. And all those things are going to help you grow up. I think that would be amazing if people were getting that experience in foster care.
There's no reason why they shouldn't, right? We do it right here in New York, and right in Harlem, in New York City. There's so much, right? We have neighborhoods that look more like foreign countries than foreign countries do.
Yeah.
But what it takes is somebody that's willing to be your guide. When you look at poverty in the United States, and especially poor young people of color, they hardly leave their neighborhood because they don't have people that will guide them on the outside, and also because they're afraid, because they're not welcome in most other neighborhoods. We need to create an opportunity for each one of those young people to know that they belong in this country, wherever they go. Now, I know that's a big undertaking, right? I understand the risk of race and color and the fears our young people have, which are very real. But I think we need to fight for that day when that's true to every one of our young people.
Do you see that day that you're talking about where we have an idea as to how to guide young people through these experiences around the country and around the world? It's gonna start off as make believe, and it might come from somebody who's been in care. Do you see that?
Absolutely. I think young people who who bring system experience can lead us in this journey. We have
Absolutely.
so much to learn. We're a system that for the longest time came from this point of expert opinion. We came to this work believing that we had the education and the thinking and all the right strategies to get this right. It is only in the last few years that we've begun to realize that we don't know enough, and what we know is not always helpful, and that the people with lived experience, those who we call credible messengers, are the most powerful guides that we can have in this work, because they both know the work, because they've experienced it, but they can also build trust with those who are in the system. So yes, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. So then, do you feel that credible messengers can assist in making foster care a better experience, a more helpful experience, and help people reunite with a family? That's the first part. But in doing so, can make the country a better place as well. Help the country understand how to deal with a diverse population and how to help everybody have a better experience in life as well.
Absolutely. We have credible messengers um, at Children's Village that do that every day. It's pretty amazing. They do it every day.
I think it's great that you call people a credible messenger, because that's what people want to be seen as. They want to be seen as credible. They want you to actually take their advice, and they want you to apply it. Now, talk to me about the Children's Village. What is the history of the Children's Village? And you're the chief executive officer there, correct?
I am.
Okay. What's the history of the Children's Village?
We were founded as an institution in the mid 1800s. Not all of our history is that great in many ways. When you look at the history of the Children's Village, and I've written about this, so I can talk about it, you can see how this current system evolved. You know, we were quick to separate children from family. We were quick to take children away to great distant places and leave them there because we didn't think that their families were good enough or their neighborhoods were good enough. So we had that history, but I think we've well atoned for that history and done some great work. I mean, today much of our work is in the community. We do everything from building affordable apartments to staying clear-eyed and focused on family. We've found a voice around race and disparity. It hasn't been easy for us, but we've found a way to talk about racism and the terrible impact it has on our people and our communities. And I think we put some good ideas out into the world that others can build on.
Okay. What are a couple of them? Can you give us one or two of them?
Sure. I've been talking about them all the time. So the first is kids need love and belonging, not more government or charity. They need people in their lives. Our communities need to be beautiful. They need good schools. They need safe public spaces. And they need an opportunity so that families can at least look at the next generation and be confident that their children will do better than they did. And finally, we think that as Children's Village, we need to continue to invest in things that are permanent. People, places, and opportunity. People, places, and opportunity. That's the work. That's the work. Nobody needs more of Children's Village. They need more people that love them unconditionally. Nobody needs to be on our campus for any longer than they must be. What they need is a safe place where they can rest and call home. And everybody needs to believe that they have something useful to do in their lives that will not only improve their life, but improve the lives of the people they love. And if they have children, the lives of their children. They need to have the confidence. I think that's the promise of our democracy. It's not a promise that has been given to everyone, but that's the promise we need to fight for.
You have a thorough understanding of the hallmarks of what life was supposed to be here in America. You came here and saw it for yourself, realized that everybody wasn't receiving it equally, and then you sought to stand in the gap and assist. And I think that's That's amazing. Now, if you can talk a little bit about immigrants, young people who come here from other countries, and how do they get along in the foster care system, and what's being done for them?
Most young people that come here from other countries see the United States the way I saw it when I came here, as a place that they want to be. They actually believe, as I did, that when you get here, that your opportunities are multiplied, that your opportunity to be greater, to be something more, to create a life and an identity for yourself, the chances are better here. So most young people we work with who are immigrants believe with all their heart that this is the promised land. No question about it. Now, some of them will go on to learn that the promise is more complicated, that it's not available to all of them, that they need to work hard. But the optimism that they bring when they come into the United States is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because they have not suffered the burden of racism and prejudice and the long history of being marginalized and treated differently. Like, I never knew that till I came to the United States. I had no idea till my friends started describing it to me.
Right.
And even then, I couldn't understand it because I didn't face it in the same way that they did.
Right. But now you're in this work and you have a clear understanding of a lot of what's going on. Now I want to know, how do you stay focused on the needs of young people with everything becoming political? Everything is becoming a big discussion. How do you manage the information load and stay focused on protecting and serving the lives of youth and families? How do you do it?
Well, that's the work. That we can't be distracted by politics. We just can't. That's the work. And I think the day that I become distracted, I hope friends will come and tap me on the shoulder and say, okay, buddy, good job, man. You got to step aside now and get out of the way. I hope I have cultivated enough friends that will remind me to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm. What's next for you?
I love the work I do.
So we can look forward to you being around for years to come in the child welfare space.
I don't know if it would be child welfare, but I love the work I do, and I think there are lots of ways to do it.
Absolutely. Hey man, I've really enjoyed talking to you today, and we're almost home. Just got a few more questions for you, and wow, I'm going to hit replay after this episode because you are stalwart in what you know, and you are forward in what you believe, and I think that that's great. My first question for you is, what is survival to you?
To me, survival is actually an emotion. And I've experienced it a couple times in my life, when you feel that standing still means that you will die, that you have to spend every waking minute and every breath you take to try to stay alive.
What is success to you?
It's easy. It's loving something loving something and feeling fulfilled by that.
What is greatness to you?
Helping.
Dr. Jeremy Kohamban, I have listened to your story today. I've been very inspired by your journey. I think it's phenomenal how you came here from a distant land. You didn't just follow anybody's track that was pre-created for you. You paid attention to what was happening, and then you got involved, and you became a leader. I want to give you a crown today while you're still living. I want to give you your respect while you can still acknowledge it. And I want to let you know, Dr. Jeremy Kohamban, that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Everybody out there, get your crown emojis ready because we were visited today by Dr. Kohamban, and he did a phenomenal job. So thanks for stopping by, all right?
Thank you.
Goodbye. All right. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Be sure to watch this interview again because the things that he was saying, they can be dissected for further understanding. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop